think maybe we ought to mute.
Right, I'll stop there.
Shabbat Shalom, good morning and welcome to our Saturday morning service at FPS. We are reading from service number 4 on page 122. One thing that I really miss from being in the sanctuary is all of us singing together and reading together when we read responsively. And unfortunately, technology doesn't allow us to all sing together, and if we all are muted,
We've lost your sound.
Alex, you can't be heard.
is this better? You can hear us now.
Yes.
So did you hear me say that we are doing service number 4? And to please sing with us, even if we can't hear each other when we sing, please sing with us and read responsively with us so that we're all together as a community, just like, well, almost like if we were in the sanctuary. Right. Eternal God, we come before you surrounded by members of our community. With them, we share our happiness and it becomes greater, our troubles and they become smaller. May we never be too mean to give, nor too proud to receive. For in giving and receiving, we discover you and begin to understand the meaning of life. Let us not separate ourselves from the true strength of our community, the experience and wisdom of old people, the hopes of the young, and the examples of care and courage which sustain us. Give us an open mind and a generous heart to welcome those who need us and to admit your presence into our daily life. And we say together at the top of page 123, Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Ozer Israel bigvora. We should revere God in all that we do, privately as well as publicly, acknowledge the truth and speak it in our hearts. Sovereign of all worlds, we lay our supplications before you, relying not on our merit, but on your abundant mercy. For what are we? What is our life and what our piety? What our goodness and what our strength? What can we say in your presence, eternal God? Are not the mightiest of us as nothing before you, the famous as though they had never lived, the learned as if they had no knowledge, and the wise as if without understanding? For most of what we do is futile, and our life on earth is but a span. Our superiority over other animals amounts to little, for all is vanity. And we read together at the top of page 124, nevertheless, we are your people, children of your covenant, and called to your service. Therefore, it is right that we should thank and praise you, to proclaim your holiness, and daily say before you. Ashrenu, Ashrenu, Matov, Matov, Matov Chilkenu. Ashrenu, Ashrenu, Matov, Matov, Matov Chilkenu. Menayim, 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 Goralenu. Menayim, 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 Goralenu. Menayim, 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 Goralenu. Menayim, 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 Goralenu. Praised be the one at whose command the world came to be. We praise you, O God, sovereign of the universe, worshipped by your people, lauded and glorified by those who love and serve you. With songs of praise we extol you and proclaim your sovereignty, sole source of the life of all worlds. We praise you, sovereign God, to whom all praise is due. Nishmat. Nishmat kolcha, tevarech et shimcha, We turn to page 128 for the Yishtabach. Yishtabach Shimcha La'ad Malkeinu, Ha'el HaMelech HaGadol VeHaKadosh B'Shamayim uVa'aretz, Ki Lechanei Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'Elohei Avotenu, Shiru Shvacha, Hallel veZimra, Brachot ve'odaot, Me'ata ve'ad olam. Baruch Ata Adonai, הבוחר בשירי זמרה. Page 135 for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. We praise you, Eternal One, O God, Sovereign of the universe, Maker of light and Creator of darkness, Author of peace and Creator of all things. In your mercy, you give light to the earth and all who live on it, and in your goodness, you renew creation continually, day by day. How manifold are your works, O God! With wisdom have you made them all. The world is full of your creations. Your handiwork proclaims your praise. The radiant stars bear witness to your glory. We praise you, O God, Creator of lights. Great is your love for us, Eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching. Make us faithful to your commandments and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. We praise you, O God. In love you have called your people Israel to serve you. Shema You reading this with me? ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, בשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך. וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. לעולם תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Good and beautiful and true, sound, established and enduring are these words, now and forever. True it is, Eternal One, that you are our sovereign God and Redeemer, as you were the God and Redeemer of our ancestors. You are our Maker, the rock of our salvation. We have known you always as our helper and our liberator. There is no God but you. Truly, you are first and you are last. We have no Redeemer but you. You redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. Then with great joy Moses, Miriam, and all Israel together sang to you this song. the redeemed sang to your name at the shore of the sea. With one accord, they gave thanks and proclaimed your sovereignty. Adonai Yimlech le'olam. Sur Israel, Gema Bezrat Israel. Go Aleinu, Adonai Tzevaot Shemo. Go Aleinu, Adonai Tzevaot Shemo. Kadosh Israel, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Israel. And we continue with the Amidah on page 140. Adonai sefer taftachu fi yagid tehilatecha. Itanu God, open up my lips, that my mouth shall declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון. גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל. מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך. קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. כבודו מלא עולם. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו, ממרחקים אנחנו לך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, טוב אדון, hallelujah. From generation to generation, we will make known your greatness. To the end of time, we will proclaim your holiness. Your praise, O God, shall never depart from our lips. We praise you, Eternal One, the Holy God. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורבנות שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקורבנות שבת. מקדש שבי שבת, כולם יזבחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראים עונג שבת, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראים עונג שבת, והשביעי רצית בו, רצית בי וקידשת שבת, חמדת ימים, אותו קראת השבת, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראים עונג שבת, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראים עונג שבת, זכר למעשה, למעשה וראשית שבת, זכר למעשה, למעשה וראשית שבת, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראים עונג שבת, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראים עונג שבת. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, רצה במנוחתנו, קדשנו במצוותיך ותן חלקנו בתורתך, סבנו מטובך ושמחנו בשועתך, ותאר ליבנו לעבדך באמת, והנחילנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה וברצון שבת קודשך, וינוחו בישראל מקדשי שמך, ברוך אתה אדוני מקדשי השבת. רצה אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל, ותפילתם באהבה תקבל, ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודם ישראל עמך. ברוך אתה אדוני, שעותך לבדיך ביראה נעבוד. מודים אנחנו לך, שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו לעולם ועד. צור חיינו, מגן אישנו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. נודה לך ונספר תהילתך, על חיינו המסורים בידיך, ועל נשמותינו הפקודות לך, ועל ניסיך שבכל יום עמנו, ועל נפלותיך וטובותיך שבכל עת ערב ובוקר וצהריים. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך, ולך נאה להודות. Grant peace, welfare and blessing, grace, love and mercy to us and to all Israel, your people. As a loving parent, bless us with the light of your presence, for by the light of your presence, eternal God, you have revealed to us the law of life, a love of kindness and righteousness, blessing and mercy, life and peace. For it is good in your sight that your people Israel and all peoples be blessed at all times with your gift of peace. We praise your God, the source of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, oseh hashalom. to page 481 for our Torah service. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonai, Gadol Shema. Gadlul Adonai Yiti, Uneromema Shemo Yardav. Today, we will have the joy of having Richard Green reading Torah for us. But first, on the occasion of his birthday, which was on Thursday, I'm going to invite Renzo to unmute himself and recite the blessings. Ya'amod, Ya'amod, Reuben ben Yosef likro haTorah. Renzo, if you want to unmute yourself.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Renzo, you can. I will call you up again. Ya'amod, Ya'amod, Reuben ben Yosef likro haTorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamorah, Baruch Adonai Leolam Vaed, Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher B'Harmanu Mechol Kol Amim, Enatananu Torato, Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen. Okay.
Thank you, Renzo. So our Torah portion today finds us in what Rebecca last week called the IKEA section of the Torah. We're in the section where we're getting verse after verse after verse after verse after verse of instructions of how to build the Mishkan and so on and so forth. We get an interesting little break here, and we focus on the people and the priesthood, Aaron and his sons, rather than just the building materials themselves for a moment. Although this too is a fair amount of directions about how to go about things. V'zeh hadavar asher ta'aseh lahem lekadesh otam lekohen li. Lakach par echad ben bakar, ve'elim shnayim tmimim, ve'lechem matzot, ve'chalot matzot belulot b'shemen, urkiki matzot, meshuchim b'shemen, sholet chitim ta'aseh otam. Venatata otam al sol echad, vehikrafta otam besol, ve'et hapar, ve'et shnei ha'elim. Ve'et Aharon, ve'et banav, takriv al petach ohel moed, ve'rachatzta otam b'mayim. Ve'lakachta et habegadim, ve'hilbashta et Aharon, et hakotonet, ve'et me'il ha'ephod, ve'et ha'ephod, ve'et ha'choshen, ve'avadeta lo v'cheshev ha'ephod. Ve'samta hamitz nefet al rosho, ve'natata et nezer ha'kodesh al hamitz nefet, ve'lakachta et shemen hamishcha, Ve'yatsakta al rosho, ve'mashachta oto. And if you're following along, the word that we've got here, the anointing oil, mashacha, hashemen, hamishcha, and mashachta oto. This is of course, the word mashacha from that becomes Mashiach, the anointed one, the Messiah. So that's what we've got going on here, the anointing. Ve'et banav takriv v'hilbashtam kotonat. Ve'hagarta otam avnet Aharon uvanav. Ve'habashta lahem mikbaot. V'hayita lahem, and this is why we're doing this. V'hayita lahem kahana lechukat olam. They will be priests for you forever. Umileta yad Aharon ve'yad banav. Switching books. And this is the Robert Alter translation. I'm very proud that I've just bought myself the Robert Alter, splashing out on this magisterial new translation of the Bible. And this is the thing you shall do for them to consecrate them to be priests to me. Take 1 bull of the herd and 2 unblemished rams and flatbread and flat cakes. And flat cake wafers brushed with oil. Fine wheat flour you shall make them. And you shall place them in 1 basket and bring them forward in the basket with the bull and the 2 rams. We're going to stop our parasha before we find out what happens to the bull and the 2 rams, but you can guess. And Aaron and his sons you shall bring forward at the entrance to the tent of meeting, and you shall bathe them in water. And you shall take the garments and dress Aaron in the tunic and the robe of the ephod and the breastplate, and you shall gird him with the band of the ephod. And you shall place the turban on his head, and you shall set the holy diadem on the turban. And you shall take the anointing oil and pour it over his head, and you shall anoint him. This is the Meshachah. And his sons you shall bring forward and dress them in tunics, and you shall belt them with sashes, Aaron and his sons, and set headgear on them, and the priesthood shall be for them a perpetual statute. And you shall install Aaron and his sons.
Can we unmute Renzo?
I've tried.
That's my bit done. Renzo, will you do the blessings after the Torah reading for us?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayolam noten betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו לפני קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. Now I invite Andrea Collett, who is celebrating a recent birthday, to read the Haftarah for us.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. We praise you, Eternal One, our God, Sovereign of the universe. You inspired faithful prophets and took pleasure in the words they spoke in truth. We praise you, O God, for the gift of Torah, your servant Moses, your people Israel, and the prophets of truth and righteousness. This is from Ezekiel. It's back to IKEA, actually, and I just want to say by way of introduction that a cubit measurement is said to have been the distance from a person's elbow to the tip of the middle finger. So you can imagine that that would have varied from person to person. Now you, mortal, describe the temple to the house of Israel. Let them measure its design, and let them be ashamed of their iniquities. And when they are ashamed of what they have done, show them the plan of the temple, its arrangement, its exits and entrances, and all its rules and regulations. Write it down in their sight so that they can follow and keep its entire plan and its rules. This is the law of the temple. The whole area on top of the mountain, all around it, is most holy. Such is the law of the temple. Here are the dimensions of the altar in cubits, whose length is a cubit and a handbreadth. Its foundation shall be 1 cubit deep and a cubit wide, with a border around the edge measuring a span in width. This is the height of the altar. From the foundation on the ground to the lower ledge, 2 cubits, with a width of 1 cubit. From the smaller to the larger ledge, 4 cubits, with a width of 1 cubit. The hearth shall be 4 cubits, and 4 horns are to rise up from the hearth. The hearth shall be 12 cubits long and 12 cubits wide, squared in all its 4 sides. The ledge shall be a square of 14 cubits by 14, with 4 equal sides, with a surrounding border of a half cubit, and the surrounding base 1 cubit. Its ramp shall face the east. Then God said to me, mortal, thus says the eternal God, these are the rules for the altar on the day it is built, for offering whole burnt offerings and for sprinkling blood on it. To the Levitical priests who are descended from Zadok, and therefore draw near to serve me, says the eternal God, give a young bull of the herd for its sin offering. Take some of its blood and put it on the 4 horns of the altar, the 4 corners of the ledge, and the surrounding border. Thus shall you purify it and wipe it clean. Then take the bull of the sin offering and burn it in the appointed place in the temple outside the sanctuary. On the next day, you shall offer a goat without blemish as a sin offering, purifying the altar from sin as you purified it with the bull. When you are done with the purification, offer a young bull of the herd and a ram from the flock, both without blemish. Offer them to the Eternal. Let the priests throw salt on them and sacrifice them as a whole burnt offering to the Eternal. Every day, for 7 days, you shall provide a goat as a sin offering, as well as a young bull of the herd and a ram from the flock. All of them must be without blemish. For 7 days, you are to purify the altar and cleanse it, then consecrate it. When those days are past, from the 8th day onward, the priests shall present your burnt offerings and your peace offerings on the altar, and I will show you favor, says the eternal God. And, we praise you, eternal one, our God, Baruch atah Adonai, sovereign of the universe. You have been our source of strength and righteousness throughout the ages, the faithful God, whose word is deed, whose every word is true and just. Amen.
Amen. Beverly Kafka also had a birthday this week, Thursday, I believe. Happy birthday, Beverly. Will you please read the community prayer for us?
Eternal God, we ask your blessing on our Queen Elizabeth and all the royal family, as well as those who govern our country. Guide them and all who govern our country with a spirit of wisdom and compassion, so that they care for the citizen and the stranger and bring benefits to all the inhabitants of our country and the world. Bless our brothers and sisters of the house of Israel. Bless our congregation and all its members. Be with those who seek your presence and all who are in need of healing, spiritual or physical. Let them know that you are near to comfort and sustain them. May peace exist in the state of Israel soon and in our time. May you, eternal God, grant blessing to her, established as an age-old dream and home to the oppressed. May its leaders and citizens be inspired with a faithfulness to the aims of its founders, and may the country be imbued with the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice always. May this Shabbat renew our energy to build and sustain a better world, and to deepen our gratitude of so much that surrounds us. And let us say, Amen.
Amen. יהללו את שם אדוני, כי נשגה שמו לבדו. בשמיים, וירם קרן לעמו, תהילה לכל חסידיו, לפני ישראל עם קרובו. הללויה, הללויה. We turn to page 488 and read responsively. God's teaching is perfect.
Reviving the soul,
God's word is unfailing.
making wise the simple,
God's precepts are right.
delighting the mind,
God's commandments are clear.
enlightening the eyes,
God's doctrine is pure.
enduring forever,
God's guidance is true.
and altogether just.
Behold, a good doctrine has been given you. Do not forsake it. It is a tree of life to those who hold it fast, and all who cling to it find happiness. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Richard, if you would.
My friend Nicole was born on Valentine's Day, 1977. Nicole and I met in graduate school. It was a fairly small cohort. There were only 12 of us, and so we all got to know each other pretty well. But Nicole was a traveler and an adventurer. She headed off very quickly out of London after graduation to document human rights abuses in Guatemala. We sort of lost touch for a couple of years, but as it turned out, we both ended up in Washington, D.C. in the mid-aughts. And we got to be much better friends there. She was there before I was. She introduced me to a couple of her friends. And one thing that I thought was really cool, she was the first friend I ever just ran into randomly on the streets of Washington, which made it feel to me like it was a little bit more home. I was outside on the street eating lunch at a street-side cafe. Some of you may remember going to cafes and eating lunch in the presence of other people. I could draw diagrams for anybody who doesn't remember what that was like, but I was outside eating at the cafe, and Nicole was on her way somewhere, and she just happened to walk past, and I thought, this really is starting to feel a little bit like home. But again, Nicole was an adventurer and a do-gooder, and she was too restless to stay at the Washington, D.C. desk job she had. She was working at a nonprofit called Search for Common Ground, peace building, really, very much from the ground up. But she wanted to be out in the field. And I remember her saying to me one night over drinks that she was determined to get back out into the field, and that she said, I will give them an ultimatum. They will send me out into the field or I will quit. And indeed, she did quit when she got herself a job promoting girls' education in Afghanistan, which I think in many ways really was the perfect job for her. And so she said to me one day she was going to pack shapeless fashion. And in the spring of 2008, she went off to Afghanistan to promote girls' education. And this was it seemed to me, the early days of instant messaging. And so it was really cool that even though she was in Afghanistan, we were in touch pretty regularly. We'd Skype instant message back and forth. And I felt like I was in touch with her and hearing about the cool things she was doing there. And then one day in August, I got a message from her brother, Sean, asking for photographs of Nicole. And Nicole was 31, and this was a time when people in their 30s were getting married. And I thought, oh, that's really cool. She's going to get married, and her brother must be putting together something for her wedding. And I wrote back to Sean. I said, is she getting married? And he said, no. Nicole is dead. She was killed by the Taliban in Afghanistan. She was coming back from a meeting with some local elders, and her clearly marked International Rescue Committee car was raked with bullets. And she and the other aid worker who were in the car with her were killed, and the local driver was seriously injured. Nicole is dead. And I was distraught. I was absolutely distraught. I have been very lucky with death in my life. It had really touched me very little up to that point. My family is healthy. I had 4 grandparents until I was 29 years old. And it was a shock. It was a real shock. And I kind of went into overdrive to remember Nicole and the good work that she had done. As it happened, I was training at the time to run my first ever half marathon. And I thought, I will turn this into a fundraiser in memory of Nicole. I will raise money for the organization that she worked for in Washington, not the organization that sent her to Afghanistan, the organization she worked for before that. And I went on Facebook, which I was fairly new to at the time, and I told people I was running a half marathon in memory of my friend Nicole. And I very quickly developed shin splints, like just really painful shooting pains up and down my legs when I was trying to run. And I thought, I have got to do this race. And I found a physiotherapist. She called herself the running doctor or something like that. She was a physiotherapist and a triathlete. And I thought, this is the one for me. And I went to talk to her, and she started doing some massage on my legs. She said, I don't know if you're going to be able to do this race or not. And I burst into tears on her table, which I think she was not expecting. And she said, all right, let's see what we can do for you. She discovered I had very flat feet. She had insoles built for me. It was fine. I went on and I was able to do the race. So thank you, Dr. Kathy. Somehow that did not feel like enough to remember Nicole. I got in touch with her cousin. We collected all the photographs that everybody had submitted. We made a slideshow in memory of her. And I kept running. I kept running year after year. I would do a half marathon. I would ask friends for money. I would post pictures of Nicole on her birthday and on her yahrzeit. Nicole would not have used the word yahrzeit. She was Buddhist. She was cremated and sent out to sea off her native Trinidad. But year after year, I marked her birthday on Facebook. I marked her yahrzeit on Facebook. I became friends through Facebook with relatives of hers, an aunt and some cousins, her former boss at Search for Common Ground. And I ran a race in memory of her every year until 2015, 7 years after she died. And it got to a point where I thought, I can't really keep asking the same friends for money in memory of Nicole year after year after year. And I got in touch with her aunt and I said, I think I'm going to stop. And she said, I never thought you were going to go for 7 years. If you want to stop, go ahead and stop. And so I did. But of course, I didn't forget Nicole, and every year on her birthday and her yahrzeit, I would change my Facebook picture to her picture. And earlier this month, a couple of days after Valentine's Day, I realized I had forgotten her birthday. For the first time since she was killed 12 and a half years earlier, I had forgotten her birthday. Part of it is because I'm not spending as much time on Facebook as I used to, because I'm kind of tired of it. Part of it is that one day, we all know, blends into the next, into the next, into the next. And my son got up this morning and he said, I've got a Zoom in 10 minutes. And I said, what? He said, I've got a Zoom with school in 10 minutes. I said, on Saturday? He said, is it Saturday? I thought it was Friday. So I cut myself a little bit of slack. But like I said, her birthday was Valentine's Day, and I did not, thank God, forget Valentine's Day. My wife and I exchanged cards on the day. I knew it was Valentine's Day. I just forgot that it was Nicole's birthday. But we Jews are funny about memory. I think probably everybody is funny about memory, but we Jews are particularly funny about memory. So much of Judaism is about remembering. One of the 10 commandments is to remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy, as all of us are doing together right now in a way that our grandparents could never have imagined. We are remembering the Sabbath day and keeping it holy, a commandment. And reading the parashah today, there were a bunch of words in it that triggered for me memories of Pesach. We've got matzah in there. We've got rachatz, which is the washing, a word that I learned from the Passover Seder. So the parashah reminded me of Passover, which we'll be celebrating 4 weeks from today, and which is itself a commandment to remember the Exodus from Egypt, which Michael Lastman likes to remind me there is no archaeological evidence for. We may very possibly be remembering something that never happened. Which brings me to Purim, for example, which we are celebrating this weekend. Our Purim legend has it that the wicked vizier Haman tried to obliterate the Jews out of spite for his wounded pride. But thanks to a proto-feminist Jewish heroine, he was foiled. And his punishment? Well, it was not just that he and his sons were hanged, which they were. It was that we Jews would blot out Haman's name for all time. So for thousands of years, we have been remembering his name in order to blot it out. That's what happens if you cross the Jews. We will remember your name for thousands of years in order to blot it out, which is kind of weird. Like, it's fun and it's funny, but is it healthy? I don't know. It was probably a sign of mental health that I forgot Nicole's birthday this year. 12 and a half years is a long time to run and remember and to mourn. It may be too long. It may be too long. I haven't forgotten Nicole. I will never forget her. But I have realized I don't have to remember her all the time. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Richard, for a beautiful and really moving sermon. And thank you for sharing your memories of Nicole with us. We are now going to move on to page 520 for the Aleinu.
אשר שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, וגורלנו להמליך מלכותו. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים, הוא אלוהינו
Trusting in you, eternal God, we hope soon to behold the glory of your might, when false gods will vanish from our hearts and idolatry cease forever. Help us to perfect the world by bringing it under your unchallenged rule, when all will invoke your name, relinquish evil, and turn to you alone. May all who dwell on earth come to know that to you every knee must bend and every tongue swear loyalty. Before you, let them humble themselves, and to your glorious name let them give honor. Let all submit to your sovereign rule. May that time come soon and last forever. For ultimate sovereignty is yours, and to all eternity you will reign in glory, as it is written, the Eternal One shall reign forever. It is hard to feel serene when our world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone. Yet, in the emptiness their passing leaves behind, we are not alone. For we have the companionship of the living, and even our loved ones who have died live on in our hearts. For what they were is part of what we have become. And this week, we are very sad to announce the death of Barbara Slater, wife of Roger, mother of David and Debbie. And we recall the outsides of Ruth and Marcel Bella, friends of Rochelle Simmons, of Simon Black, husband of Raina Sheridan, of Daphne Colby, mother of Richard Colby, of Agnes Dolan, mother of David Dolan, of Harv Friedman, husband of Anita Friedman, and of Sarah Silverman, mother of Anita Silverman, of Paul Oppenheimer, husband of Corinne Oppenheimer, of Leon Pilpel, father of Alison Pilpel, and of Joan Solomon, mother of Janet Solomon. We honor them best when we live as they would wish, responsibly and happily, even in the shadow of our loss, and so draw closer to the source of life, in whom every life finds meaning, purpose, and hope. And we say Kaddish together. Yitgadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach echuteh ve'yamlich malchuteh, b'chai echon u'v'yom echon, u'v'chayei dechol bet Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv ve'imru amen. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושיחתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דעם לירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו. הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל בני אדם ואמרו אמן. Do we have any announcements, Josie or Tamara?
We certainly do. Hello, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you to everyone who participated in and led this service. Thank you so much, Alex and Franklin, for leading us in prayer this morning. Thank you, Richard. I have to say I'm slightly at a loss for words for how to respond to your sharing of that beautiful and very powerful personal story and tribute to your friend. And I know that you have touched and moved us all. And last week, Rabbi Rebecca was speaking about what it means for us as Jews to be commanded to remember very troubling and difficult and painful things. And I think you surprised us today into approaching that aspect of our tradition from a new perspective and thinking about it in a fresh way. And Thank you for that. Thank you so much. And thank you also for your innovation in the Yismachu, which I now realise was a birthday tribute to Renzo. Happy birthday, Renzo. Thank you for participating in the service today.
Thank you.
I know the whole congregation joins me in wishing you a very happy birthday. And happy birthday also, and thank you also for participating today to Andrea and to Beverly. When Beverly was reading our community prayers and saying, bless this congregation, I was thinking how blessed we are in our lay leadership, how wonderfully privileged and lucky we are to have Alex and Franklin leading us so capably this morning, to have you, Richard, to have Beverly, who's played such a great role on council at the moment in helping to develop our community support, Andrea Collett, who is the community champion for our charity Jewish Women's Aid, Renzo, a former chair and now vice president of the community. How blessed we are in our members and our lay leadership. Thank you so much to you all. And on that note, thank you also to Beverly and to Susanna, Emma Prinsley, Margot Katz, Mick Melbourne for our Mishlach Manot parcel delivery and creation this week. I know how much that was appreciated. I've had people let me know how pleased they were to receive those parcels, so thank you so much. And talking of Purim, join us this afternoon at 5:30 for our Purim extravaganza. There will be music, there will be quizzes, there will be challenges, there will be fancy dress. Richard, did you want to come in on that?
I think it may be at 5.
It's at 5 o'clock. I beg your pardon. It is at 5. Thank you for correcting me. That should make sure we now all have the correct time fixed in our minds. And I'm going to come back to you for a time of another event later as well. At 5 o'clock, indeed, all of those things. There will be prizes for fancy dress. Remember that you can also get your Zoom background to coordinate with your outfit. The theme is through the decades. And at 6 o'clock, the FPS players, following on their very successful and much enjoyed production in October of an extract from Arnold Wesker's Chicken Soup with Barley, will be presenting a Midwinter Nights spiel, which has been mistitled by me, among others, Esther in Cable Street. But it's an East End snapshot of preparations for Purim 85 years ago, and I think it will be joyful. So come along and enjoy that with us. Tomorrow morning, Cafe Ivrea is being led with Michael and Adrian on the subject of divine light. And it's followed at 11 by Claudia's Purim Mexican Veggie Cook-Along. I think the title is self-explanatory, but if you need further encouragement, if you look at the recipes online, which you can click through to from our email, you'll see that they include a recipe for a healthy margarita. A reminder to you all, whether you were or weren't able to, Tea and Tech with you at 4 p.m. on Thursday, Josie. I see that in the chat. It was dropped off the email for anyone who needs their tech problems solved. Whether or not you were able to come to our event with the representatives of the Markaz on Thursday, I'd just like to remind you now to please write an email to support their planning application. I'm going to try to drop into the chat right now. There it is. The website that you can go to. It's very easy to express your support. All the information you need is there on the website. If you are in the postcode of one of the councillors deciding the application, and there may be an opportunity for you to participate in a Zoom call with a local councillor. It's very easy to do. You don't need to speak. But why am I saying all this now? Because we are doing a training with Barnet citizens on Monday night. From 6 to 7:30 for people who want to participate in those Zoom calls if you'd like to come. And the consultation period is short. So you may feel that there's lots to think about and that you want to read more about it. By all means do that, but do it sooner rather than later. The link for that is in the chat. Wednesday at 7, the theme of delving into Judaism with Rabbi Rebecca is on Shabbat. I think we've Andrea, if you put your postcode in when you fill out the form, it will let you know whether you're one of those people. Otherwise, we can deal with that by email. Sorry. On Thursday, coffee with Rabbi Rebecca at 11, and immediately following that, she'll be taking Taste of Torah Kitisa, the golden calf and its troubles. And looking ahead, if you want to get more of Richard, and who doesn't want more of Richard, there's a special breakfast shiur next Saturday, March the 6th, on the delicious and troubling subject of gossip, lashon hara, social control, or the glue that binds us together. So what a subject for us. Another thought-provoking. It's at 9:30. Thank you, Josie. And also next week, on the 11th of March at 6 o'clock, Beit Midrash will be hosting Sharon Bar-Lee, who's Israel's Deputy Ambassador, will be speaking to us on the subject of Israel and liberal Judaism now more than ever. Wow, what a wonderfully rich congregation we have, and what a rich congregational life, so much going on. It only remains to say Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and happy Purim.
So thank you very much, Tamara. Before Josie shares content on the screen, not even Paul could guess the final song. In fact, I couldn't have guessed it up until recently. You know how we always associate our festivals with food, and I, in particular, I'm sure you do too, associate festivals with music. And I'd always thought that Purim was the poor relation as far as music was concerned. I only knew two songs, Chag Purim and Ani Purim. And then just by chance, I came across a tune which I think, according to Frank anyway, is incredibly old, older than me even, called Utsu Etza. And I thought it was way too good to pass. And now it's our favorite song. And Alex and we've got an earworm. We haven't stopped singing it all week. I think we'll drive each other mad with it eventually. But it's such a great piece. So we thought we'd give you a chance to join in. But before we do, we're going to sing it to you first slowly. And then I think we'll have a go sing it a couple of times, maybe get faster and faster. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. So Josie, thanks very much for your lovely creation this week when I sent it to you. And here we go. We'll give you a performance before we all decide to join in together. Here we go. Okay, so let's all sing it together. You obviously have to be muted, but I hope you enjoy it. Here we go. And we're going to do it a little bit slower, and then we'll do it one more time quicker. Here we go. And now quicker. So I hope you enjoyed that. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And I think, is Frank making Kiddush?
Richard is doing the blessing over the wine, and then Rabbi Frank will do Hamotzi.
So please have your glasses and chalot ready. There we are.
Zachor et Yom HaShabbat v'lekodsho. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, lasod et HaShabbat l'dorotam berit olam. V'ini uvein v'nei Yisrael et hi leolam, ot hi leolam, ot hi leolam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, ve'yom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. And
Shabbat Shalom, and thank you, everybody. We
Can I
say
read
goodbye
Shabbat
to
Shalom?
our friends on social media, and it's been really lovely to spend all this time with you. Bye.